kind of works. Is required. But in the day-to-day, you should not have to feel afraid of your fellow crew member. Sorry if
Well,
I made you nervous.
to be fair to me, my the reason why I started wearing that wasn't entirely influenced by my anxieties about uh, feeling a little bit exposed, but rather it was about the fear of possession. Although I have to admit that I've kind of kept wearing it past the point where I thought that the Pa Wraiths were a legitimate threat, so I don't think I can really hide behind that in terms of motivation. I tell myself that my intentions have been good. I don't want to make your life difficult or to make my emotional difficulties your problem. You've been a good second officer to me, and I valued your counsel and support, and I guess I have been trying my best not to mess that up.
There's several seconds of silence as Jill. It doesn't help anything as things go along. We manage. You don't have to be worried about. Out of the 50 or so people ship, she shrugs. I'm getting used to the variety of thoughts people give as I walk through. One person silence very little. Appreciate the concern, but if anything, it only hurts our relationship that much more.
Well, I apologize. Obviously, there have been. I'm. Uh, there's been a lot of pressure, and But you're right. I've been hiding, and I won't do it anymore. You'll probably still see me wearing the Daja Pod because I think I've kind of started to like that, but it'll be my actual one, not the bedazzled one.
She smirks at the comment of it being bedazzled. Of course. If it helps you to represent who you are and where you can, nobody should stop you. I just, in the end, it is jewelry, but it's the fact that it means something to you important. Just like, and she'll just kind of grasp at her chest where you've seen it once before. It's where she has the Jerisa around her neck.
Yeah, we all carry our families with us. I wanted to make sure, I was going to tell you probably at the beginning of next shift, but I just wanted to let you know that I had spoken to the Kai, and there was a development that I wanted you to know sooner rather than later. So I suppose it's best that I get that out of the way. Apparently, well, it's in regards to the Vedic bombing, the explosion. Apparently, there wasn't a victim in that instance. That the Vedic is alive.
Confused look, eyebrow raised.
She told me that apparently she was aware that the bombing was going to occur, I think, and that she made sure that the Vedic wasn't on the shuttle. I suspect has something to do with the stuff that she's unwilling to tell us, but apparently she intervened to make sure that the Vedic didn't actually die. Which I don't know what that does to the space-time continuum, but apparently there's one more Vedic out there than necessarily there might have been otherwise.
Just lets out a huff of annoyance and leans back in the chair. That was better to know now before I start digging into the information again on the way back to the station.
Well, the interesting thing about the fact that she told me is that apparently she was aware that the bombing was going to occur, but still was unable to tell me what the motivation for the bombing was. She doesn't know who did it, which is fascinating to me. I mean, she always could be lying, but I think that honestly wasn't the impression I got. I get the impression that she believes that there is some sort of malicious force out there, that she countered one of their actions, but still doesn't know who they are. Which
temporal awareness.
We should keep looking into the bombing to find out who did it, but she can't help us in that area.
She shakes her head a little bit. We just don't have a lot of information to work with, not without being present there at the site. All we have is the information to work from. Very one-sided investigation.
Yeah, and if
temporal awareness is a funny thing. There's accounts of people being able to see events unfold unless they were actually there at the time. Why is easily just them as right now us.
So, sorry, you're kind of cutting in and out a little bit, so I missed that last sentence.
Temporal awareness is a funny thing. There's records of people being able to see events, but even they could not know why, just as much as we don't know why right now.
Yes. I don't know that I put much stock into predestination. I suppose we're going to have to think about it a lot over the next little bit, given what the Kai has dropped in our laps. But I don't know. I guess we can only really proceed on the assumption that we have free will and that we can do something about it. I don't know that I feel particularly beholden to a future that I'm being told already exists.
Then don't be.
Yeah.
Make your own choices. Don't try follow a narrative that you know.
Yeah.
If I did that, I'd probably still be married in a double relationship, or we'd be fighting each other.
Well, I don't know. When I was in the war, I had pretty much given up to the idea that I wasn't making it out, so I've not entirely adjusted to the idea that my options are open again.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. One day.
Would you like something to drink? It sort of wanders over toward the replicator.
Oh, Tea, please.
He gets tea and ice water for himself and wanders back over. Things went a little better than I expected at dinner. I was legitimately concerned that Massette was going to be uncomfortable. I imagine she probably was, but she handled it well.
Question for Risha at the dinner. How uncomfortable was she?
You hear me all right?
Yes.
So her baseline, it kind of feels kind of staticky.
Mm-hmm.
If that's how we're going to run with like some mental discipline stuff. Jacob, feel free to veto that right now.
No, you, it's your character.
That's
I'm not
fine. The question is, did anything jump out being in such a situation?
Very bellicose.
Okay. Thank you. To Desesh's comment, Jill's gonna shrug. She seems to be managing all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to her. Get the paperwork started for involving herself on a bit more. I did my best to not snarl at Dagon, and
Either he didn't see it or he didn't care.
well, that's pretty much his thing. Yeah.
She nods.
Can you sense changeling?
That's a storyteller question. Does Dagon have any type of reading? I don't.
So I haven't made a determination completely about changelings in general, but Dagon historically has been unable to be sensed or heard, and I'm gonna stick with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been Marjorie's bane.
Dagon is difficult. Fortunately, instead of trying to read his emotion, it's easier just to read his face. Is that wrong?
I would think you would have even more control of that.
Drugs. Different
Hi.
species.
Very
different
highly
ways.
of him.
Hmm?
Sorry, was there a third party saying something there? Sir?
No, I think we just spoke over each other.
Okay.
Different species have different tells when it comes to how they're feeling. Just because someone might not be readable mentally doesn't mean you can't see what they're feeling written all over their face.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously someone who knows a lot about trying to keep things behind my eyes.
Just well, like I said, one day at a time, and tomorrow you'll try to be more open.
Yes. I mean, I'll try.
That's relatively an honest answer, right?
Yes. I mean, if you like, there's more to it if you are actually
Nope.
Well, if you're like deliberately trying to read him, uh, but because there's other emotions that are probably waving off of him, but he's answering honestly.
Nah, she's just picking up what's predominant at the moment.
All right. You do get the distinct impression that he's anxious about the answer, but and you got that's kind of like embarrassment, kind of waving off of him a little bit too, but nothing to imply that he's like trying to pull a fast one.
Fair enough. Well, Raj, I appreciate you taking the moment to speak about this. And she'll actually reach over and put her hand on his.
He accepts that, and kind of there's a moment of like you can sort of sense him kind of tensing up at it, but not really. But it doesn't really come across as upsetting him, but more like just he suddenly you get that that sort of like embarrassment and anxiousness and confusion, but he kind of like keeps it all behind his eyes and says, "Of course, Commander Jill. I need to be mature about it, and I suppose I haven't been. Thank you for understanding."
Of course. And if you don't mind, it is rather late. I wasn't hoping to take up the entire night.
No,
She's
you don't.
Hmm?
You don't stay. We're getting up bright and early. I'll see you for sparring.
I'll be there.
Sparring.
And that she'll stand up and finish setting it back down. She'll thank you. You have a good night.
You too.
With that, she'll give him a hug and then make her way out.
Okay. Before she leaves, Cash comes over and gets acknowledged too.
Yep, she will kneel down and give the dog scritches.
Mm-hmm. And Dasesh walks her to the door, sees her out, door closes.
And as
Scene's
sorry,
not
go
over.
My
The
fault.
Dasesh kind of like leans against the door, and Cash just kind of gives him a look, and he's like, "Shut up." And he like kind of wanders back over to the chair and sits down, and Cash kind of walks over, looks at him, and with the all too human eyes, and kind of judgy, and that's where the scene ends.
Love it.
Well, on the other side of the door, Jill's actually pulled out her Jerisa, starts like looking it over with a sigh, and then walks on.
And as the two part, the camera too shall part both of them as it heads all the way down to the, I guess in this case would be up to the captain's ready room, where despite the late hour, there's always some sort of work to be had, as Kiana has a presentation or ready for a potential avenue of research and development, and being a engineering project as well. The captain has seen fit to invite Moset in for the conversation. So that is where I shall flip to.
Yep.
Thank you both for
I heard a little bit and then I cut out.
It cut out. Yeah.
thank you both for meeting.
It's not a problem at all. Ari wasn't quite ready for bed yet either.
I have been working a project instructions to carry out orders, search queue. For it is in all based provided main.
It's coming through really garbled.
Yeah, we're getting every third word. Sorry.
If I heard correctly, it was the implementation for holograms, so that way they can conduct search and rescue on their own.
How do I sound?
Good.
Good.
Okay, it may just be a voice pickup issue. Maybe just.
It's not a hologram. We already have some holograms that can do that. This is actually a bot. It has, I'm gonna think, an off. But how's everybody hearing me now?
Better.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something we can deploy, and programming for its potential to execute orders is as far as program. Leave it can collect data, it can do search and rescue.
Interesting. So this would be more of a probe akin to medical missions?
No, that's the great thing about it, is it can be utilized as search and rescue, yes. Find life forms that are in need and administer aid until we can get a hologram there, or it can get it back to the ship. Native plants on a planet. It can collect anything we can tell it.
So kind of like an all-purpose utility drone, as it were.
Yes.
She kind of frowns a little bit when she says that word.
Yes. Semi-self-sufficient. It could handle simple tasks of gathering information, scanning the chemical compounds of whatever it may have collected for us.
That could certainly be useful in the event that such compounds are hazardous to humanoid life.
And potentially we can have it also assist in with animals, if we're working with animals, if we collect a specimen, even from an animal form or another life form, that could be accomplished as well.
No, that might actually be useful, especially if we end up treating higher risk predators. She thinks for a moment. There's a puppy that is currently sniffing around the two ladies' feet because puppy.
She leans down and pets Ari and says to her, "You like the idea, don't you?"
Perhaps, with your idea, we could make, would it be shielded for planetary, like, breaking atmosphere and such?
Yes.
Is
In
there
that
any way to
case,
make it
that's-
submersible?
Absolutely.
If she goes to the Arboretum, it can be arranged.
Yeah.
Well,
Typically, watertight compartments and whatnot are typically, to make something watertight, you need to encapsulate in something. But since you wanted to survive atmospheric reentry, such substances are out of the question. You would have to make the internal compartments watertight internally as opposed to externally.
and
That
that,
solution.
and that's why I brought in an engineer.
I could use some assistance with it. I have it to about 99% on that particular deal, but I could use your assistance. The last.
Oh, so it's complete.
Yes. In theory.
Oh, you misunderstand me. 100% is impossible to complete.
That may be, but perhaps your assistance can add a few decimal points to that.
Nothing isn't.
By the way, since you've walked in, Risha, the statue that's in the corner has been staring at you for some reason. And it's followed you since you walked in the door.
The eyes have followed you.
Oh,
the statue.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of something completely different.
No, it's not a weeping angel.
God damn it, you beat me to it.
Although...
It's a laughing angel.
oh no, Ari's hopped up on the desk. She's laying on the desk.
Curious. Captain, how much more massive does it get? And she tries to gesticulate with her hands.
Have you had a chance to see Cash yet?
I was wondering about that, but those questions have been answered.
Well, she'll get about his size, fully grown.
And I surmise that this one is not the holographic one, correct?
No, I picked up Ari on Earth, before joining the Nightingale.
So, at the risk of making my character look like an idiot, this is an alien creature. So what she's going to do is just take a single finger and then poke it right on the tip of its nose. Very gently. More like a boop as opposed to a...
Yeah, Ari tries to lick the finger, and when she can't get it, just kind of harumphs and sits back down. She does like that, but after a little bit, she does get annoyed of it. She says with a smile.
Yes.
They make excellent guard dogs, she said.
McCurry, I will assist you in this. You've piqued my interest.
Wonderful. Glad to have you.
I would add that you add pre-packaged programming before anything of rescue on different types of planets. She says use Vulcan as an example, Cardassia. She says, you know, Trill. I know how humid it is there. She says. But I want to make sure that this thing can operate in as many environments as we can muster.
You and I are on the same page.
If you can make it manage to survive in a crap, my brain just went blank.
Class Y, Captain?
A Tholian environment. I will bake you both a dozen cookies.
Is that a threat?
There's no need for that, Captain.
No, because if you can make it survive a Tholian atmosphere, it will literally survive anywhere. Because the Tholian environment not only is exceedingly hot, but also exceedingly acidic.
Yes,
Right.
I'm familiar with that.
Oh, that's out of character for those who weren't.
Oh, I thought this was the Captain just gushing about the medical possibilities about the probe.
Oh no, I put on that nasty British accent whenever. No, I'm kidding. For the record, that's me bragging. Like, if it can survive there, it can survive anywhere.
Good.
Captain, if need be, I'll make sure that the probe can survive atmosphere entry of Daled 4 if you so desire.
She
See,
thinks
you
about
got it.
that for a moment. Maybe not. I don't think we have any dwarf star ally. She says. She kind of chuckles a bit. But, that being said, she says, she yawns and says, it's time for this old woman to go to bed.
Yes, and understood. Thank you again for hearing me out. She
Nice.
looks at the is tomorrow too soon?
Nothing is ever too soon. I will see you then.
I will my office at 900. And I will
There's
be
like a
there.
brief moment where you think that she's thinking, but then you see her fingers twitching a little bit and you realize that she's doing a mental calculation, possibly due to different hours. Very well.
Good night. And she'll head to her quarters.
All right. After this, Risha heads to her quarters, but doesn't stay there long, and grabs something out of a replicator and heads to the hologram, where she proceeds to nearly drown for 30 minutes learning how to swim.
Excellent. And as the night goes on and Miss Mosette becomes proficient in the underwater of water breathing,
It's literally just not drowning skills.
that's certainly fair. I'm gonna bring us to the whatchamacallit, the next morning, where we're gonna have that. Sorry. We are gonna head to the conference room for our morning meeting. We do know that we will be presumably leaving the system today, so in a couple hours, in fact. So with that knowledge, allow me to change the map, and oh boy, I need to populate. But there are certainly more people in the room. There we go. And why not? We will have Mr. Corso is in the room at times. And if there's anyone else specific that someone would like to bring in. I'm missing a Kiana, though. I could have sworn I just put her token on there. Is she under? No. Okay, that's weird.
Kiana was channeling her inner John Cena. You couldn't see her.
You're just moving so slowly.
I could have sworn. Okay. Maybe I'm just crazy.
Well, yeah.
About it.
Forgot Ari.
No, I put her down.
Oh,
I would have.
She's on her bed.
But
Oh God, thank God.
Yeah, she has her own bed at the corner of the.
never mind. The didn't down.
Yeah, Risha would have noticed that the captain goes almost nowhere on the ship without the dog.
Sorry, out of character, Josie thought you said, "Oh yeah, I put her down." I'm like, wait a minute, did I miss 12?
No.
oh,
I'm sorry.
this is the ship where we lift them up.
Anyway,
Most players on the ship have a pet of.
yeah, Duncan has probably about 30 just in his zoology lab.
That.
Right, so we are heading back to DS-17 today. That being said, anything left on Bahara, I would suggest you finish it up with great haste, she says.
I would like the opportunity to take one more trip down to talk to the Kai. I want to get a little bit more understanding about the nature of their religion before we go, and set the groundwork to possibly return here at a later time.
You are aware you have probably about 4 hours before we head to DS-17.
Yeah, it'll be under that. I'm not planning to belabor it.
She nods. I am assuming you two are going to be working on that project. She points to the two women in the back.
Yes, Captain.
She nods. Oh, Jill, if you could, get Kasara acclimated to the science department.
A moment of hesitation, then she nods. Understood.
She nods. And then she looks back at Mr. Corso and says, "And Mr. Corso, how's that book treating you?"
Wonderful, Captain. I have read it myself. I can't lie. I didn't stop once I started. However, at the moment, it's hermetically sealed and back under protection.
She nods. Excellent. Right. So, that being said, I'm going to go let Diaz know that we'll be taking off in a few hours, she says. And then she'll look around and say, if nobody else has anything, I would say this is a good place to end this meeting, she says.
All right.
Dismissed.
Zesh gets up. He briefly walks to Jill and says, "I should probably bring a security complement with me."
She nods. You can have someone. I can have someone assigned to you, unless you'd rather I go.
No, it sounded like you had things in hand. You can just send someone with me. They'll mostly be waiting outside.
Very well. Trying to remember who we keep sending on this stuff.
Molly.
Parker.
All right, send Molly.
Thank you.
All right, I head down to the transporter room.
It's usually Molly and Maxwell. Or Sasha.
Rogers, that's what it was, not Parker.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name at the last second.
Maxwell and Rogers are the ones that usually go.
Ah, Lita.
And we'll stick with Sesh for the moment, as at least until he asks me something that I need a couple moments to think about. As he heads down to the transporter room, and with quick ease, he and Molly Rogers being down, and as they coalesce in front of the kind of building where the Kai is most often at and in front of, it really doesn't take very long to see him, as per usual, he's in front of the building with a crowd around him, and as your eyes start to focus in the now natural light, you can see that he's starting. It looks like he and a small group of people are starting to kind of hand out what look like white pills, or the kind of nutrients that the doctor came up with.
Mhm. I'm gonna approach, like, so he's sort of directly handing these out himself.
More like if it was a food line or a food drive, he's just one of the many kind of administers.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, as I approach him, one of the things that I'm going to be sort of observing, like, him for before I actually come in and approach, is his sort of demeanor. Because one of the things that, like, he's like patient zero for this treatment, right? And one of the things that are a potential side effect of this drug is it's potentially going to cure a long-standing mood-altering effect that their diet has been having, right? Like, this could cause bouts of aggression or like mood swings, right?
Um,
At least that was the impression that I got from the way the doctor was describing it.
it definitely could. And the doctor isn't really here to do the workout for himself, but
Yeah,
it's probably. In lieu of that, I'll say that it's probably not something that enough time has passed. I think.
that's sort of what I'm trying to determine. Like, if this, like, someone takes these pills and they go crazy, like, obviously we want to know that before we leave.
That's fair. And you know what? It's been like an hour into it, and I haven't given you guys the easy roll. So let's go. Even though I just kind of gave that up a little bit, let's go with the insight medicine, difficulty 0.
Woohoo! My one medicine. Yeah, I don't think anything applies. So, difficulty 1, you said?
0.
0. Okay, well, here we go.
It's probably
Hey!
something you should want to work on, being on a medical ship.
That's why he has all the
I'll
doctors.
do that. I'm good at the other things.
Well, would you look at that? Church boy has the blessings of the prophets.
Woohoo!
And as you gain 2 momentum, and as you start to approach and kind of keenly observe, you can notice that there doesn't really seem to be a huge amount of difference in Dakai's either stance or demeanor. He's still
Did you mean to change the map?
uh, whoops.
Because we're still in the conference room.
Thank you. I was not on the conference room map. He seems to be pretty, like usual, almost imperceptibly kind of favoring his left side as he kind of passes these things along.
Right. I sort of don't interrupt it first, but obviously I'm on the clock, so if it seems like I need to approach him in order to pull him away from the crowd, so to speak, then eventually I do after a few minutes.
Oh, it definitely doesn't take a few minutes, unless I don't think you're actively trying to hide from him. So
I'm standing in the crowd. And I think everybody just saw me beam in, so I'm probably calling attention to myself.
That is certainly fair. Plus, no, that is certainly fair. And after about 30, 40 seconds or so, you can see him kind of just like pat the back of the person next to him, and as he kind of steps out of line, you can see the two kind of fill in a little bit to um, to recover some of the space that he just vacated from. And as he walks around, he comes up to the two of you and says, familiar faces at this point.
Yes, Commander Desesh. I wanted to come down. We're going to be leaving orbit in about 3 hours. We'll be heading out, but we've left the necessary tools to reach out to us if anything changes, or if you experience any issues or require more supply. We'll certainly do our best. We're going to be leaving a ship in the sector for another couple of days to do additional research on the solar adjustment that we had to do to hopefully deal with some of your heat problems. So overall, we hope things have worked out. But I was wondering if I could have a moment of your time for more personal reasons, Eminence. For my own interest, I wanted to talk to you about my orb experience and about matters of faith.
Of course. On two very simple conditions. The first being that, please, you tell this crew that you're leaving on the ship that if time permits, they're more than welcome down here for rest or respite, should they get a little, tired or whatnot. I think you have all certainly done enough for us. It's the least we could offer. And onto that second condition, please, don't call me Eminence. Roland or Kai Roland will do.
Sesh, through effort of will, tries not to roll his eyes at Mordecai's not willing to accept their proper method of address, but but he resists the urge. Could we perhaps speak privately?
Of course. Would you?
I mean, he's okay with just going over to a bench or something. He just there's a big crowd here.
Yeah, and he leads you a few dozen feet away from the others. It's kind of it's not really into the farmland, but it's around what appears to be kind of like I guess community garden, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
And as he, you can kind of see him peer over a couple of the bushes, and as he looks back, he says, "Oh, sometimes the kids like to hide. So, please, what questions have you?"
Mostly, I mean, you have been very hospitable, Kai Roland. And have openly embraced us, as we have done our best to in turn. But I got the impression when we were speaking the first day that your reaction when I spoke of the prophets led me to believe that there are complicated feelings associated with that made me think that I should ask you a little bit more about how perhaps your faith has about the present state of your faith, whether you have significantly changed in your beliefs over the 1,000 years since you've been of Bajor.
Give me a insight. This is gonna be opposed. I want to say insight security versus his presence command, and my target is gonna be a 14 for that.
Wait, what? Target 14?
My target. So I'm saying
Cool.
Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
For a minute, I thought we were reverting to a D10 system.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, and this this seems like a persuasion situation. I don't know what you think of that, but I am going to use the profit motive, my virtue here, to get a couple extra successes, because I kind of want to read into what's going on here. Also, politics might enter into this. I don't know.
I think politics is probably better than persuasion
Mhm.
in this circumstance.
Okay,
But the
so
value's definitely fair.
and we have what, 2 momentum, so I can add a momentum.
You can, and I am spending a threat.
Okay, all right, here we go. Wait a minute. Do you think bargain applies in this situation? Because that would get me an extra d20.
No, this is not. This isn't a convince roll. This is a do you notice something?
Okay,
Pro.
all right, fair enough.
Okay. Well, that is 5 successes to my 1 success. So you definitely gain the momentum back, and as the Kai responds, you can tell that he is attempting to hide a great amount of embarrassment, or perhaps humiliation would be a better word, as he kind of feebly says, it's simply that, you see, we don't know much about them. Much of that information was lost long ago, and the one that rekindled our ability to understand and believe, he was only with us a short time. Our knowledge of them is woefully incomplete, but
You're referring to the coming of the orb.
yes.
Would you like me to leave you with some of the information that I have from our holy books? Some of the information of what has happened with Bajor since your departure.
You can see his lips kind of start to tremble, and he takes a couple quick swallows as he answers back with a very steady voice, soft but steady, as he says, I think many of us, myself included, would appreciate that very much.
Seeing that the Kai obviously is, this is a
Having a
big
moment.
moment. Sesh kind of just sort of leans in and says, "The prophets, they have never taken their eyes from you. Like we did not know you were here, but the prophets, they would always have known, and we will see that that you are given the opportunity to know of what has happened in the time since you have departed. You are... Well, I have spoken to... Well, I'm sure you're aware there is Kai Arso, the current Kai of Bajor. She has sent her best wishes, and when the time is right, Bajor will be there, and the Vedics. You need only call to them, and I am sure there will be great rejoicing."
Nodding a little bit, he says, my only worry perhaps is that it might be too much too soon. And as he kind of points to the garden, he says, I wouldn't, perhaps with our newfound knowledge, we should acclimate ourselves to, well, what Bajorans typically believe before, or at least try to understand it a little bit better before, rushing in too soon and potentially damaging the, fruits of future success.
Hi, Roland, you are the Kai of these people. You will have the opportunity to see to it the imparting of this information as the time is right. I know that this time will be a time of difficulty for your people as you adjust to the medication and potentially to these old ideas and we understand that time has passed, but we will I appreciate your invitation, and I am actually hoping that I will be able to take some shore leave here and learn of your people more, and have that opportunity to speak with you again. I sense that this is not the last time that I will be here on Bahara, and I thank you for the hospitality that you have offered.
Of course, as I said, you're welcome anytime, and I truly look forward to this glimpse into, the information that's been forever elusive.
The sesh just takes 2 minutes because he already has gathered all of this religious stuff in the hollow matrix of his of his own personal computer here. So he's just gonna get one replicated and send maybe the top 3 religious books that he can replicate off the top of his head, and he's going to have them sent down so that he can present them to the Kai.
Did you add in wormhole aliens for dummies?
No, I'm not gonna go there, but maybe a book of Bajoran history that's maybe published circa 2370. so that we don't have some complexities of dealing with some of the the kind of thing that like is being taught in like a remedial inner city high school level textbook that's maybe a little out of date, so that we don't have to worry about some of the
That's fair.
some of the current problems.
I think maybe 2315s would be ideal.
Why 15? That's like 80 years ago.
That's before the
what-
Cardassian
what?
occupation.
Oh, the Cardassian occupation. Yeah. No, I wouldn't have thought of that. I was worried about the discovery of the Celestial Temple. I think that that's just a can of worms that I think that we should break to them a little later. But
So
no,
maybe a book published in the 2370s, early 2370s.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Got it.
Certainly.
Yeah, I'm going to let them know about the Bajoran occupation. But yeah, just and something pretty like seriously, just a textbook, really.
No, that's fair. That's certainly fair. And as the books kind of beam down, and the Kai looks at them almost or quite excitedly. He looks back at the crowd of people in the distance and says, as soon as we finish handing these out for today, I'll be honest, I don't think I'm gonna do anything but read these until these books are finished, and then I'm probably gonna rinse myself off and repeat.
I have recently read through all of them, so if you find yourself needing someone to talk to about them, I'll try to make myself available. I guess I'm one of the closer Bajorans, but as I pointed out, if you find yourself in need of counseling, I suspect the Vedic Assembly might be willing to send someone.
Of course, he says, I think if I do have any questions, I'll probably contact you first. However, I know you.
And I know you too, Kai Roland, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Indeed, he says with a smile, and looking a little bit off to Molly, says, and you don't talk much, but your presence is quite comforting.
This is Molly, and I just introduced Molly to the Kai. I think she was here last time too, so.
Oh, she's been here many times. He says with a smile as he kind of nods to her.
All right. So I think that seems like a decent enough transition for Desesh to head back up to the ship and continue on.
Excellent. And as he does, before we head to the lab real quick, as Desesh and Molly beam away, the Kai kind of pats the books a little bit, looks to the crowd of people, and with a bit of a smile says, God, I wish we hadn't have had to wait so long for these, but well. And as he kind of looks at the spot you beamed out of, he says, a lot more helpful this time around. And as he's walking back, he says, well, I guess that's fair. The promise has been kept. And now we'll head to the lab, as Desesh had just beamed down to the ship. And Joe is gathering up Kasara. We are gonna head to Kiana and Risha, as the two of them are just getting settled into the lab to start working. And actually, as the two of you enter the lab, you see that there is another person there. As soon as I manage to find my you know what? We'll go with Mr. Relson. He's as the two of you would know, he's a guy of little words, but he's got a pretty keen scientific mind. His particular specialty is stellar cartography, but he definitely dabbles in a lot of areas. And as the door opens to admit the two of you, you can see him spin around in the chair to look and see who's entering the room. And with a crisp nod at the two of you, he turns back around to the console.
Motion. She'll motion for her to follow to the desk area, pull up them she has on project.
I'm just gonna say, as the information kind of displays on the screen, you can see what appears to be diagrams. However, we haven't gotten to the practical development stage yet. And as the diagrams start to filter through the screen, there with the request that the captain predicted, you realize there's going to be or actually you both realize there's going to be a very delicate mix of at least to start, what materials even to use. You're going to need something that is pretty resistant and durable, but something that also can withstand a decent amount of pressure, certainly if you want to make it submersible or operatable within the, I believe it was Tholian atmosphere, which is a pretty tough thing to start with. So it's going to have to be pretty heat resistant, etc., etc., etc.
Curious. Hakuri, can you pull up the mathematical formula regarding atmospheric reentry temperatures?
Sure. Yeah.
It appears that it exceeds normal planetoids that even would be class Y by a factor of at least 4. If we make sure that the shielding can withstand an atmospheric reentry when it regards to temperature, I'm fairly certain it can handle the most extremes of the higher temperatures.
Agreed.
What we should be focusing? Sorry, continue.
Oh, it was just now how to do that.
Well, many of your shuttles are capable of surviving atmospheric reentry. We could possibly repurpose the alloys for those. What our primary concern should probably be is the pressure and colder temperatures. That too.
Yeah.
It kind of just sinks back in thought. I mean, when you think about it, a starship is no different than a submersible, save for the medium it travels through. If we design this internally as though if it was perhaps if we design the internals of the probe not unlike that of a starship, then perhaps we can develop watertight sections in which the sensors and power components can remain undamaged.
That sounds like it. Shouldn't be an issue with pressure.
Is your concern that the shielding will hamper the function and ability of the sensors?
No, I'm just trying to think how it's going to be able to obtain enough power to provide all that.
Hmm.
Stepping over, Rayla can't help but notice the screen as he says, "That looks rather interesting. What's it intended for?"
It's basically a workbot drone.
Does he have clearance?
Yes. I don't hide any.
Be it more medically inclined.
I'm sorry, I think both of you actually kind of got, not cut off, but a little garbled in the Discord. It might have been me, but I didn't make out what either of you said in full.
Oh, she said that yes, he does have clearance. I don't hide anything. It's a probe. And then I said, oh, but for medically inclined missions.
He says, well, far be it from me to say, but it would seem that that level of shielding would at least disallow it the ability to act as a medical probe while the shields were active.
Mm. Unless... And she kind of taps her finger against the desk. Unless we take a page from the function and the formatting of the Prometheus. Modular with the unshielded segments breaking off when needed.
That's certainly interesting, boss, he says, looking at Kiana.
That just might be a work.
Well, I've finished what I needed to do working on the spectral analysis of the Baharan sun. Perhaps I could join the team.
I have no objection to it. I think that more people on board, the faster we can get done in operation.
He has no objections.
And as the three of you get kind of bend down to get to work, Relson isn't gonna get a part of this actual role, unfortunately. But to kind of, I guess, redesign it or kind of incorporate the modularity to it, why don't we have one main, one assist? I'm thinking reason engineering. Difficulty. Let's go with difficulty 2, but I'm gonna spend 2 threat to up it to difficulty 3. Just because the Prometheus class has 3 segments, and we're basing it on the Prometheus, so gotta keep things astrally correct.
Will you take unconventional think
Ooh.
for focus?
I certainly would.
All right, I am gonna just snag a momentum.
Yeah, I was gonna grab a couple.
Alright, hold on. One of you's gonna be the main, one of you's gonna be the assist, so let's decide that because yeah.
Do you want
Or-
to be the?
I mean, for RP reasons, I thought Hakuri would take the lead, and then Mosette would just be following along, checking seams.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay.
Oh, and I can't snag momentum for an assist, can I?
You cannot. That's the only reason that I
Got it.
went.
Okay.
I was just seeing. Okay. 2 dice would be a total of 3 momentum.
Correct.
3 dice.
4.
You sure you needed me?
Well, you still do because the more momentum, the better.
And the complication range was 3. Got it.
No. Complication range was 1. The
Oh.
difficulty was 3.
Oh, okay. I misheard that.
Glued up.
Okay then. Gaining 4 momentum as Rauson kind of starts to put his head down and work, but very quickly it's clear that his contributions aren't adding too much to the general project, and in fact, by the time that he's done kind of doing his small portion of what he's doing, it appears that Hakari has already kind of finished that and moved on to something else, already to have that work kind of just a once over from Mosette, as he just kind of stops bothering, I guess, and kind of stands back a little bit, half watching the kind of teamwork going on and half watching the console itself as the changes rapidly fly by. And as the two of you manage to kind of come up with these designs and start kind of replicating the parts needed to put together an actual practical model, Railson can only look at the two of you as he says, I'll set up the replicating parts for construction. It would appear that that's where I'm most apt, and I'd say the two of you have earned a couple minutes of respite. And he heads over to the kind of fabrication area and begins kind of laying out pieces for easy construction.
Would you like to go and get some tea or a drink?
I would love to.
Take a little break. I think
And as the two ladies walk out of the room, let me just double check. Is Jill still migrating?
I'm okay now.
Oh,
Ah, excellent. Just as they leave the lab, over a couple rooms over, just entering the lab is Jill and the now collected Kisara. This lab, however, currently, you know what it does? Andos is over in the corner, and as he kind of mimicking the same motion down the ship, bends his head over to look and see who's entered. He's simply gives both of you a polite nod and a quick commander before kind of turning back to his console.
Yeah.
Good morning, Andos.
Good morning.
Rugged as always. Andus. She'll lean against the table. Look at Jill.
Yeah, there's a similar smirk from the Ryzen. And just to refresh my memory, I believe we're just getting Kasaros up to speed on the systems.
Think of it more as like onboarding,
Okay.
as it were.
Yeah, and probably after, a good 10 seconds or so of Kasara probably getting dreamy eyes, Jill will clear her throat. Oh, Kasara should probably get started.
Oh, right. Is there a test or something? Mother wasn't clear.
Let's just say as long as you show proficiency, there won't need to be a test. It shouldn't be that hard.
She nods. Fair enough. She'll just go and kick off the table and go and sit in the chair over here and spin around and look at Jill, waiting for this test.
Well, as much as I can go into detail about which variation or model number that we have equipped on the ship, that part's not important so much as the capabilities of the ship. Needless to say, we are dealing with some of the most advanced sensor suites in Starfleet. Not only do we cover spectral, gravitational, they like most Starfleet ships can be attuned for even exotic materials. And Jill's basically going to run down like which sensor palettes are better to utilize for which types of scans.
Mm-hmm.
and how the information comes in, and then afterwards, after running through everything, it's like, now this should be relatively simple. How about you? And she'll gesture to the console in front of Kasara. Why don't you tell me what the background, what empty space is comprised of in this area?
She smirks and says, "Sounds easy enough. I thought you were going to give me something hard." She says with a smirk, and she will dance across those Elcars, seeing that she's already worked the sensors on this boat. Sorry, I added particulates down to the 100 millionth. I'm so sorry. I assume you didn't want it that detailed.
She shakes her head. No, detailed is good. Being the equivalent eyes of a starship, being able to pull up the details is a very good skill. Afterwards, disseminating the details to the appropriate people, that does take a little bit more talent to give the people what they need versus everything available.
She nods, and she will list off the whatever heavy metals and like even the oddities of like, there's lithium here and there really shouldn't be kind of things. Like nothing dangerous or anything, just be like, well, there's a lithium ion, there's this, there's that. Just
And
oddities.
there's a couple of exercises, but Jill's actually gonna go through the records, and instead of having Kasara scan for one, it's gonna switch to recognition. So now, take a look at these readings. They're from a few years ago, but what can you determine from this? And for Jake's sake, she's gonna pull up the readings of the Enterprise's cosmic string. Which is basically a subspace tear.
Wait, are we talking about the Nexus?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, she would know about the Nexus. Between her mother and Arif, I have a feeling she would know. But she'll look at it and say, well, whatever this was, gouged a huge hole in subspace, and, well, that's odd, I didn't notice that. She points out a set of readings, and she says, it's almost, look at this, she says, and she'll motion. You see the exotic particulates there?
Yes.
They, like, I've seen subspace tears before, and that should not be there. That is odd even for a tear.
That's correct. Now, when you mention something not being that it wasn't spotted before, this was dissected, I don't know how many hundreds of times, but in the moment it was a life or death situation. The relevant information will keep the ship intact and the crew alive.
She nods. Well, my advice for this would be, one, don't go anywhere near it, and two, a deflected stitch, as it were. Romulans would use the well, the pull of their singularity drives in conjunction with their tractor beams, using the pull to, well, efficiently seal it up. But the ship itself would have to be the size of a Raptor or a Pterodex. She says to Jill.
Well, an interesting comparison. The Starfleet ship, especially one in our case, we may not be that big, but we do have the power output capable of that same scale of ships.
She nods.
Granted, we operate on a controlled explosion versus a controlled vacuum.
That may be true, but it is mathematically proven that a Romulan warp core is more efficient.
There's a little bit of a chuckle. So I will save the debate of engine types for a later day. For now, if you wish to remain on the ship, this is what we have to work with.
She nods. I'm sure I can make do, she says with a smile.
You never
By
know.
the-
You might just find the Starfleet designs effective in other ways than what you're used to with the Romulan ships.
Fair enough. By the way, I would like to point out that while Jill was giving her entire lecture, despite the fact that, you know, she has the telltale Romulan ears and kind of forehead ridge, right? You couldn't differentiate her from an Elorian in that moment. She was listening, in fact, quite a bit.
Paying attention, yeah.
Yeah, she's good at it.
In that case, I mean, I won't even ask for a roll for this because of the whole Elorian trait, but a lot of the way that when Jill's speaking, it could easily be like a mother talking to their own daughter about how they would take your daughter to work day.
Oh yeah, she knows that. She knows that tone. She gets it every day.
Yeah.
Because her mother did in fact bring her daughter to work. Just so happens her daughter is a 40-year-old Romulan.
Yeah.
Who's going through her terrible 40s.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I have other paperwork and such to do. But, and Jill will get a comm on her comm badge. All senior staff, please meet, on the bridge. We're getting out of here. And Kazara looks at Jill and says, well, you better go. Mother's calling.
She shrugs with a smirk. As it seems. Kia, go ahead and keep familiarizing yourself and get a list together if you have any questions on how any of the systems work. You'll find that, while they may not be the same displays as Romulans, we can still achieve the same readings. Methodology may be different, so I'll check back in you afterwards.
Sure. If
See
I
there's
have any,
questions of them.
well, if I have any questions, I'll ask the rather handsome Bajoran over on this side of the wall. She says with a smile.
She nods.
Andos does not appear in any way as if he has heard it, except for a couple chuckles of his shoulders.
And she'll go to another console and start working.
And before Jill leaves, she'll look over to Andus and say, Andus, please don't get in any trouble.
And he just I don't actually know what to call it as he turns around and gives you a look of basically just, oh please, but good-naturedly.
So smart. I heard that. And then she'll leave.
And as everyone kind of gathers up to the bridge and Bahara starts receding in the view screen, about halfway through the system, you guys start to realize that Dasan and his ship has also departed and appears to be on the same course as yours, as a couple moments later the bridge gets a hail.
Okay. Are you gonna switch us to the bridge?
It depends on whether or not you answer the hail.
Sure. She's not gonna leave it, like, hang.
We're actually gonna switch to Dasan's bridge as his image comes up as he says, Captain, everyone, seems like you're departing the system, and I have to say it's, well, good timing indeed.
Oh, Dasan, what can we do for you?
Well, it appears that one of my ships happened to get a long-range reading of, well, one of these Azurian ships under attack from one of my rogue people. I was going to go take care of it, but I figured that, one, safety in numbers, and two, nothing wrong with you guys getting another feather in your cap, at least in their eyes. I think I used the expression right.
I believe you did, she says, thinking about it. She says, we don't mind being backup, but we're not exactly equipped for combat.
Shrugging a little bit, he says, I have no problems in that regard, but, well, quite frankly, well, you did enough before, and if nothing else, we don't know what the shape of the Azurian ship is going to be when we get there. We're still about 40 minutes away.
Mm-hmm. Right, well, she says, get us the coordinates and we'll meet you, well, we'll follow you there, she says.
And I'm sorry.
And, well, I will say that as she'll still be on the view screen, but she's calling down to the hospital to prepare for possible casualties. You know, the usual.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly fair. And as Dasan just nods, he says, I'm sending you the coordinates now. At he cuts the communication, and Deers, you can turns around and says, I've got the course plotted, Captain, and at your command. He was right. We're about 40 minutes away.
She says, well, get us there, she says. And she says, Lieutenant Goodman, see if you can get communications to the Azurian ship. Risha, make sure our shields will actually work, she says.
Yes, Captain.
And Jill, if you possibly want to shoot at something, she motions over behind her.
Do we want to prepare the runabout to run interference again, or are we more going to focus on getting the Azurians out?
Well, we're going to let the hunter hunt down his prey, and we are going to provide the assistance to the wounded. And if And
Jill will
if
go
the-
behind the console.
the Hirogen decide to get uppity, well, we do still have phasers and photon torpedoes.
Jacob, just to clarify, he did say 2 ships, right?
He, no, I said, it appears that an Azurian ship is under attack by one of my rogue.
He said 1. Okay, I thought I heard 2. Okay, all right.
Yeah, he said one of his ships, one of his pack, saw the ship, or noticed the ship, and then
I missed
gave
that.
it to Dasan, and yeah.
And
Okay.
it wouldn't take long before we could decide for ourselves long range sensors, anyways.
Right? Which was her order to Kiana, which was long range sensors. I want to know what we're dealing with before we get there.
Alright, let's start with that.
By the way, the dog is still on the bridge.
Adorable.
Yeah, Cash should be around too. I'm gonna grab him. He's not that big.
Although Nira will also tell Jill that the moment we come out of warp, she wants red alert just in case.
Prudent. Will be done.
Alrighty, and as the why don't we start with that scan, because I think that is within long range. Kiana, and if somebody wants to assist in it, that's cool. Why don't you give me a control science difficulty? What is pretty long range? So I'm gonna put the difficulty at 3.
All right. And I'd like to buy a couple momentum, get 4 dice, and ooh, do I have focus? I have cybernetics.
Do you have computer systems?
Oh, I do. Sorry. Yes, I have.
Computer systems, I would definitely take.
Oh,
Help from the ship, and then Jill could try to help from the tactical console.
Sure, let's go with sensor science for the ship.
who's gonna do that?
Sensor science for the ship.
Someone else is gonna have to roll. Our setup doesn't have the third page open.
Oh,
Okay,
that's right.
just have science for the ship. Sensors. Did someone already roll, or should I roll?
Go for it.
Go.
Thing.
Alright, that got us there. That got us there as you kind of start to get the results, and you can see that presently it's there's 3 Azurian ships of that same configuration that initially showed up, and there's 2 Hirogen vessels, and it does appear to there does appear to be an active firefight, and I'll say that you also pick up what appears to be floating debris that is shares the same material components as the other Azurian ships.
Could I take a moment, like if other people are dealing, to scan for escape pods?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be a little more difficult to pick up through the debris. So I'm gonna put the same base difficulty at 3, but I'm gonna up it to 4 with threat. And
I might do it then. But I'll give it a
you
try
can
anyway.
you can have an assist and a ship assist. So
We'll
I
see
think,
how this goes. I suck at this. What is the roll?
But for this one, let's go with either reason.
Reason science.
I'm thinking reason or control with science or engineering. Both of those would apply.
Okay. I don't know if you'd buy logistics being a part of this, but otherwise,
I'll go for it. I'll take
sure.
logistics.
okay.
I up the difficulty. I'll take logistics.
And is there a momentum for me to throw into this?
You currently have 3.
All right, let's see how this goes.
And I thought you were supposed to suck at this.
Whoa!
The prophets
Logistics.
really want him to succeed.
Double ones.
Yeah.
Didn't even need logistics.
Congratulations, you blew your natural ones of the night.
So, would you like me to roll something from the ship?
Yes, let's get some momentum in here.
Indeed.
Sensor science.
Yeah, sensor science will work.
Would this be Nightingale Main?
That's a good question. It's been a while. It should be Nightingale. This one.
Nightingale shows me control and PC stats.
Oh shit!
What?
Here, I got it.
It shouldn't.
I got it. Got
Thank you.
one.
Fair enough. As the momentum continues to climb up, as you realize, Disesh, that while there's plenty of chunks of metal that would constitute this approximate size, none of them appear to have any contained atmosphere. So it would be exceedingly unlikely that any escape pods are in the middle of this.
Okay. Can I spend one of those momentum just to get the additional ask of how many ships have been lost so far?
I won't make you do it. One ship has been lost so far.
Okay. Any bodies floating in the vacuum?
Way too far away to tell that.
Okay.
But logistically, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and when we're about 5 minutes out, Jill will confirm going to red alert.
Alright, I'm gonna bring us to that point. There's not much that you guys can really do to affect the situation until then, so you're kind of forced to watch as the Hirogen managed to kind of, and as you get closer, the details start to get a little less blurry as the two Hirogen craft are able to successfully take out another Azurian ship, leaving it 2-2. However, the concentrating on one of the Hirogen ships, the remaining two Azurians managed to kind of blast away, bringing it down to 2-1 in the Azurians' favor. However, their victory was a costly one, as the remaining Hirogen ship has managed to take out one of the two remaining, leaving it 1-1 odds that would appear to be in the Hirogen's favor. And as you guys get to 5 minutes out and Jill turns on the red alert, and I'm just kidding, I'm not actually going to leave this red screen on. The alarms start to blare, and you can see Jason start to emerge from warp as well, just behind you.
Yep. Anira's first thought is the other, like, while it is one-on-one, is the ship completely destroyed, or is it just dead in space at the moment?
The Azurian ship seems at the moment, it seems capable. It still has shields.
I meant the second one.
The Hirogen ship.
No, the second Azurian ship, the last one to go down before we got here.
It's destroyed by now. You can see almost without question that all hands are lost.
We weren't within transporter range, I assume.
No. You guys.
Captain, the best way we can stop this fight is to just put ourselves right between the two.
Recommend that we announce our presence. Lay down the law.
She nods. Dares come about, put us in between them. Jill, fire a warning shot across that Hirogen's bow.
As soon as they can, she will.
We may want to identify ourselves. Oh yeah, no, she is going with the standard. This is the Federation. You done fucked up. Message.
I don't mind you shooting first. I just think we should say something at some point.
Oh yeah, no, she is like. This is to get them to stop shooting, and then the moment they get in between, she's gonna open up with this is the Federation, you done fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jill's gonna fire actually 2 shots across the bow of the Hirogen ship.
Alright, so as the ship is sailing in to do this, Deers kind of hunches over and starts to concentrate. Actually, Jill, so as you start to program, I'm just gonna use one roll to encompass both shots. But as you give me a control security difficulty 2 to miss, why doesn't Moset? Why don't you give me an insight engineering, also difficulty 2?
Inside engineering, complication range.
Just normal 1.
Alright, I am going to steal a momentum, if that's possible.
You can't
Y'all have
because
5.
we're going to let you have it.
Oh, well, good news. I have meticulous.
You also need to roll one more dice because you took a momentum.
No, that is an additional.
Oh, okay.
One,
fine.
2.
and was
No,
that-
you roll 2 dice as your base.
Right, but I scored 1 complication.
But the momentum gave you a 3rd die.
Right, I'm an idiot. Thank you. I'll re-roll that whole set then.
No. You've already passed and you've already gotten rid of the complication. Just give us a 3rd dice. Or just one more die to see if you get
Roll
the
an
momentum.
additional reroll.
Oh, 1, 2, 3. I do have
Oh.
cautious though.
Well, there you go.
All right, Jason, what do you?
Take a threat for a third die. With a focus. Starfleet maneuvers.
Yes.
Or yeah. I know I have something to that effect. Yeah, go ahead and roll those 3, and then if someone can roll the ship's weapon security.
1, 2, 0.
Okay, not the end of the world. Princess, go ahead and reroll one of those.
The ship was no help.
Of course it wasn't.
And complication.
Screw it!
You have values.
And we do have 4 momentum.
Well, considering we were between the 2 ships, so the Hirogen are clearly on one side, it's going to be... how much momentum do we have?
No matter what, the complication isn't going to be you fucked up the side and hit the Azurian ship. I can tell you that much.
You know what? Just let it run.
Oh boy.
All right. No, it's okay. It's okay. As you know what? Why not? As the I apologize. I momentarily blanked on the name of the ship. As the Nightingale flies in, suspended between the 2 of these ships in locked war. A couple of the errant shots kind of glance off her shields as the whatchamacallit, the Nightingale kind of gets in between the 2, blocking them from attacking each other. And as Dasan, his own ship, starts to fly behind the other Hirogen ship, Jill hits the button to fire a warning shot across the bow of the enemy Hirogen ship. And as the first one sails perfectly beyond the top, the second one, however, just as Risha notices from the kind of corner of her eye a little indicator on the console and turns to look at it, she can see that the targeting sensors are slightly misaligned, and there appears to be a short leading to Jill's console, not allowing her to see that fact. And as she hits the button a second time, you can see the phaser beam kind of lance out and flare up against the nose section of the Hirogen ship. And as on the view screen, Dasan's ship, his own weapons haven't fired yet, but they start to glow, and as the front gun ports start to become more and more energized, getting ready to release.
Hmm.
There's a thud of Jill's hand just smacking against the console. Quiet.
Well, hopefully we made our point.
While all of the tense stuff is going on, I'm going to quietly signal the Azurian ship with just like a standard, standard hail indicating that we're the USS Nightingale, prepared to render assistance once you're out of danger. But I'm not doing it verbally. I'm just sending a little text to make sure that they know who we are.
Meanwhile,
Hold on. Sticking with that for a second. Disesh, please make me an insight security or insight command roll. Difficulty 1. Complication
Okay.
range 2.
Insight. Would this involve Starfleet protocol or anything that would give me a focus potentially? Law.
I think yes. Starfleet protocol, musical theater, or logistics. I would.
That's right. I'm doing this on my keyboard. All right, sure.
All right. As you send the message. Oh, I'm sorry. Is
I might have to do the ship too here.
no, not in this instance.
I thought you said target 2.
No. Difficulty 1, complication range 2.
Oh, okay.
As you send the message, you yourself have the sudden insight that as the computers kind of link up with each other and you get the name of the ship, this ship remaining is actually the same ship that when you were kind of on the dead as a Hirogen ship, there was a ship that kind of spoke for the fleet under Captain NK, and this is that ship.
I was just looking up her name. Yeah. I lean over and point out to the captain. That's Captain NK's ship over there.
she nods and she'll say, right, well, let her know that we are here to help and we do have doctors on board if she has injured. Meanwhile, she says, I have to deal with the naughty children, she says, and she'll look at Goodman and say, open a hail to that Hirogen ship.
As he looks back at you, he just kind of shrugs as he says, I've been trying, Captain. They're not responding.
Then just make it an open hail. Or an open channel.
She nods. Fair enough, yeah.
He turns around and thumbs the button and turns back around and kind of gives you a bit of a thumbs up to indicate that you're on.
A hostile Hirogen vessel, this is Captain Nero Morgana. You are participating in a violent action that is not acceptable. Now, power down your weapons, or get wiped off the face of the universe. That's really your choice, she says. And she'll tell Lawson to say, she'll look at Lawson and say, what I want you to do is lock everything we have on that ship and try to make us look a little more armed than we actually are. I want them to get the point.
Yes, Captain. And they're gonna be pumping more power into the phasers that they have. Make them show off as if there's more power ready to burst versus what they can do.
And as all that is happening and Morgana's talking, you can see you can see Dasan's ship kind of start to get bigger in the view as all of the sudden just as Jill finishes speaking, the Hirogen ship, it's the enemy Hirogen ships, its forward gun ports or phaser ports, pulse ports, light up magnificently before kind of releasing a shot full bore into the Nightingale. And as the ship starts to kind of just naturally shudder under the impact that the shields managed to absorb.
I get to shout the Riker, brace for impact!
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And automatically the Nightingale's holographic seatbelt systems start to appear at the sides of the chairs, should people decide to strap in or not. But you can see Dasan's on the view screen own ports start to glow that same color as he shoots on the backside of the Hirogen vessel, and suddenly
Sorry. I was gonna have have Jill do something in conjunction with Dasan.
Maybe, but that opportunity has been lost a little bit because as Dasan's own weapons fire, suddenly you see as they lance out and get about halfway to the Hirogen ship, suddenly you can see a great kind of firework spectacle in space as the view screen goes momentarily fuzzy before you can see it winks back to life, and you see the Hirogen ship's own gun ports start to glow again as it starts to fly towards you, and Dasan, his ship, for his part, appears to be weathering some sort of, or his shields appear to be weathering some sort of firefight from some sort of feedback from his attack.
So it looked like Dasan got attacked, but we didn't see it because of some weird thing with our screen?
Dasan shot. Well, you got attacked by the enemy ship, and then in response to that, the enemy ship got attacked by Dasan. However, Dasan's shot basically kind of, for lack of a better term, blew itself up about halfway between the two ships. And now he's dealing with some sort of fallout of that.
So he didn't do that deliberately, though. That seems like it was some sort of accident that's damaged him.
That would require a scanning roll.
Okay. Was that you requesting that I do so?
Sure. Absolutely. I'll take a scan or an insight. So insight, science, or control science. I would take either of those. Difficulty. Difficulty 1 for the control science. Difficulty 2 for the insight science.
Okay. All right. We've got a momentum, right? So I'll throw that in there.
4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm still just suspicious of this guy, so I'll just double check and make sure that this was more or less on the up and up. I got a complication there, didn't I?
You did.
No. Yes, I did.
You do have 3 momentum.
Oof. Not going to use that in a firefight on a sensors roll. No, I'll take the complication, but I did succeed, so.
You absolutely did. So, you're able to pick up, quite easily on your sensors that it appears that some sort of cloud, some sort of controlled warp particle or plasma particle has been loosed behind the Hirogen ship, almost as if it was anticipating an attack from behind. As to the complication, you know what? Why not? I'm gonna say the complication was how easy it was for you to pick that up.
Suspiciously?
It would appear so. It's right there on your sensors. It's pretty obvious, almost.
And that's kind of a non-lethal attack that he just did on the other thing. Whatever that is, kind of sounds like.
Oh no, his
Can
weapons
blow
were
like
set to
herself.
full. His weapons
What?
were set to full.
Oh, okay.
Alternatively, if you don't have a useful complication, you can just take 2 threat from it.
No, that was the
Well,
complication.
he used it to throw a whole bunch of sus on it.
Yeah, that's fair. Just pointing it out.
Mhm. All right, other people can continue.
But yeah, Captain, you have a ship boring down on you, Moset. You have a targeting misalignment that you know about. Jill, you're probably actively trying to use those targeting. Who has something they want to do? Kiana, you've got quite a bit to scan and try to determine, or who wants to do what?
I can start scanning. What do you want me to scan first?
An option is you can do a scan for weakness. It makes it easier to do damage with a success.
Yeah.
Okay.
The captain will say scan the enemy Hirogen ship for weaknesses. And yeah. Because after the fight, the captain's going to be, arm deep in Azurians. So, yeah.
We just got to break off the pursuit so that we can render aid.
Can I take a momentum? Does anybody object?
No, go ahead.
That gives me how many dice?
3.
Computer systems focus.
I think that's
What am I rolling? What are the attribute? Just
Control science, I think.
was it? Okay.
I think. I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah, I believe it is.
I think it is too. All right. I have one complication.
So you did
What we-
succeed, and since it's not going to be an actual combat technical because we're starting to push on time, but I
Okay.
will incorporate that. But there is a complication at hand.
All right. Complication.
Oh boy.
Do you have cautious or anything that gives a reroll?
But that one, no, I don't have anything that can re-roll the complication.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
We do have 2 momentum.
Okay, use a moment flash.
Yep, go ahead.
Yep.
Thank.
Alrighty, as the sensor beams kind of wash over the Hirogen ship, you're able to filter out a large amount of background noise from that bloom that's starting to fizzle out behind it, and really get into the guts and meat of the actual vessel. And you can see that while this vessel seems pretty well off in general, it does seem that most of the kind of bulk of the Azurian attacks happened at one particular kind of area of the ship, which is kind of the bottom left rear quadrant, where the engines and nacelles kind of start to meet the hull of the ship. And as you kind of feed that over to Jill's console, I'm gonna give Jill and Risha a chance to do something before I kind of have the Hirogens move again.
Can I try to find some sort of weakness structurally with the Hirogen? Would I understand they're a engineeringly stagnant species, and such weaknesses can develop over time?
Well, I think we did that. It was we need the targeting sensors realigned or something. I think.
I'm certainly willing to do the structure thing. That's absolutely fine.
Oh, an assist, perhaps?
Would that be an inside engineering?
Yes, on the inside engineering difficulty 2, no on the assist.
Okay.
Fantastico.
Ouch.
Well, that's okay, because as you kind of start to puzzle over the ship itself from an engineering standpoint, noticing some features that are strong and features that are slightly weaker, certainly when it comes to things like atmospheric flight, you don't really pick up on any sort of obvious Achilles heel. And as you kind of ponder that for another couple moments, let's move over to Jill.
Well, Captain, you want me to fire again?
Until they stop shooting at us, yes.
Done. Take
So,
3 threat.
For the firing, just so you know, in terms of the scan for weakness, I'm gonna drop the difficulty by 1, but I'm also gonna raise the complication range to 2, because the targeting sensors are slightly misaligned.
Well, scan for weakness as a as a roll allow it does. The weapons automatically gain piercing 1, and then with however many extra dice I get plus damage.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I was typing out a response.
Scan for weakness. When it's successful, the vessel's next attack gets piercing 2, and if I buy any dice, it's plus dice of damage.
Yes. So I'll be honest, because of the time, I'm probably not gonna get into damage rolls. I'm just gonna kind of, I am just gonna kind of keep it a little bit more narrative and thematic.
That's fine. It's exactly what we were trying to do.
No, I know. That's why I kind of lowered the difficulty and made it your weapons kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, narratively more powerful.
All right. So what was the target difficulty?
It was 1. With a complication range of 2.
All right. Difficulty 1, comp 3, and I'm just gonna buy 1 die for a threat.
Are you rolling or me?
I can get it, and here we go.
Let's hope you're better than I.
Oh, are you kidding? Starfleet Protocol, Starship Maneuvers, either of those as a focus.
I'll blend them enough, so yeah.
Got it.
You did? Oh, then I forgot about that. As the shot, as you prepare to take the shot, just as you're going to hit the button at the last second, you remember that second shot that went just off access, and as you kind of quickly, manually kind of correct for that, and well, slightly hope for the best a little bit. There's a moment of, well, indecision and insecurity before you shake it off almost immediately and hit the button, causing your own phaser beams to kind of lash out, smacking this this enemy Hirogen vessel right in its own nose, and kind of as the beam kind of lances into the gun port, one of them, you can see on the screen as the energy kind of reverberates and ripples back towards the aft of the ship. Dasan's closing in again, though this time slightly more cautiously, and as he once again prepares to fire and does so, it's almost like time freezes in that moment, as the shot is coming towards the Hirogen ship. And I'm gonna say that Jill, Dasesh, pretty much everyone on the bridge can kind of see that the tides have definitely turned, as the Azurian ship, ignoring Dasesh's message, he kind of swoops out from underneath and behind the Nightingale and turns towards the Hirogen ship as well. Its own weapon port starting to glow eerily against the backdrop of space.
Nira says on the bridge of the Nightingale. My god, they're aquatic Klingons. Anyway. And Jason dies. Oh. Oh. You good?
Hello.
I think so. Okay.
Hey.
All right, so this has changed now, and now we're like they're turning around to target the Hirogen ship. I think we should offer the Hirogen an opportunity to surrender at this point.
She does. She'll send the open hail again. See if they respond. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and don't have many friends. So unless you want to die here, I would suggest
You just killed 3 of their ships.
Well, she didn't. That's not her problem.
No, it's not our problem. It's their problem. Like, that the Azurians are probably not looking for a surrender right now.
Yeah, probably not.
A fact that's actually quite evident as the enemy ship having now absorbed Dasan's own ship shot, rocking it a little bit. You can see its own kind of beneath the shields while they still stay on and flare up. You can see some of the lights in the ports of the Hirogen ship start to flicker off and on before they resume their luminosity. And as the enemy ship kind of turns and starts to attempt to withdraw, you can see the Azurian ship starting to pursue its weapon systems, quite active at this point, and charging up to fire, along with Dasan, who is also preparing one final salvo.
Well, at this point, Nira just tells Deers to come about, turn the ship to where technically we aren't watching it, and let Dasan have his Hirogen, because that was the deal originally. Dasan deals with the Hirogen, so if he wants the ship destroyed, that's his. That's an internal Hirogen matter. Yeah. And if he wants to let the Azurians help, then
Should we prepare to evacuate in the event that their shields go down?
we're going to stay in the system until this is over, and then render aid to the Azurians as planned. What Dasan does with that ship is Dasan's business.
All right.
And basically, this is her washing her hands of the situation.
Well, in the strictest sense, it's a PD matter, so.
Exactly.
And as the Nightingale turns around and doesn't watch the Hirogen ship as Dasan and the Azurian ship bear down on it and kind of fire at it in parallel. Um, both of those attacks are just way too much. Not even a little too much, but way too much for the ship to handle. And as it blossoms into infinite small chunks of nothingness, you realize that with the explosion happening so fast, with such a vicious attack, with the shields already weakened, there would have been no time to transport survivors anyways. And as Dasan kind of arrests his own momentum and the Azurian ship flies through the remains of what's left of the Herodian vessel, thus even pushing them and scattering them further. A couple moments later, you get a hail from the Azurian ship.
Yep. She'll have Goodman put it on screen.
And as the screen flashes on, you're treated to well, quite frankly, a sight you've seen before, though this time in the backdrop you can see your own ship yet again, but you can also see Dasan's ship, and as you kind of look at the woman, or the captain, she says, Captain Morgana, I believe, of the Federation Nightingale.
Captain NK, it's a pleasure to see you again. Do you have any injured or are in need of repairs? She says.
We can take care of that right enough, she says, with a little bit of a kind of straightening up a little bit as she says it. However, she says, it was my mission to actually come find you. We've received word from the Baharans, and, well, quite frankly, this most recent event is, well, quite in that standing. However, our leader has set a time to treat with you should you well, no, not should you, just our leader has set a time to treat with you.
Very well. When will she be expecting us?
As she sends you the information, Goodman looks around and says, "Getting it now, Captain. It seems like we're to meet with them on their homeworld, and, well, it looks like about 6 days and 23 hours from now."
She nods.
22, he says.
She'll nod and say, well, we look forward to meeting with your leader.
Giving a bit of a nod, she says, I will be there as well.
Excellent. It'll be good to have a familiar face there.
And after she looks like she's about to cut the communication, before she kind of looks back up and says, thank you for both your and Dasan's assistance against the Hirogen.
Not a problem at all. It's what we're here for. Well, not specifically what we're here for, but you understand, I'm sure.
Nodding, she says, yes, and I'll see you on Azuria. Perhaps if you get there a little bit early, I could show you some of the surface.
That would be lovely.
And
I quite look forward to that.
nodding sternly, she says, very well. I will see you shortly before one of your weeks has concluded.
Very well. See you then. And Nero will nod and respectfully cut the call.
And almost as soon as you do, another hail comes in from Dasan.
She'll nod to Goodman to put it on the screen.
Captain?
Dasan.
Simply wanted to say good job. That was unfortunate, but necessary, and the assistance was much appreciated.
She nods. Well, it didn't go down exactly how I planned, but it's good to know that at least some of the people that we were here to protect made it out alive.
As he nods, he says, "Indeed, I just wish it could be said. I wish the same could be said for, well, my own former crew. Pack, not crew."
She nods and says, "Right, well, I'm... Oh,
Yep.
go ahead."
Do we think this? I'm talking to the captain. Do we think this was random? Maybe we should determine what their motivation was. If they're targeting the Azurians, possibly in retaliation for previous engagements, we need to know that.
She looks at Dasan and says, "Care to do a little snooping?" She says.
He raises an eyebrow as he says, if I had to guess, it would simply be that, well, they think they're worthy prey. However, let's face it, our technology is superior to theirs. He just looks a little confused, almost as if he hadn't really considered it, and he says, "I'll attempt to find out."
"Thank you." And she looks at Dasesh and say, "Who better to know the inner workings of a Hirogen's mind than a Hirogen?" she says.
Sesh nods.
Right. Well, sorry to cut this call short, but it seems we have a few places to be.
Us too, Dasan says. We're heading to Deep Space 17 currently, and then, well, I think we're gonna head back to Bahara. I would like to leave a ship or two there, just to make sure they don't come under attack.
Fair enough. Perhaps DS-17 can help get you some extra bodies, as it were. She says, ironically enough, we're headed there ourselves. Perhaps I can talk to Arif and figure that out.
And with his face lighting up, he says, "Excellent. In which case, allow me to escort you to further adventures."
Fair enough. It seems we have to do a little maintenance here on the way anyway. So,
And as Dasan nods and cuts the communique, and the ship angles itself towards Deep Space 17, I think that's where we're gonna call it for the day, and pick it up next week after your guys' a fun and fateful night of karaoke and drinking, and, well, sneaking into Commander Arif's office.
you mean the night where Nero was completely stone sober even after drinking an ungodly amount of moonshine?
Still impaired enough to steal from Arif.